This video is part 1 of 2. We're going to focus on something that's been a topic within the collision repair industry for as far back as most of us can remember. Repair versus replace. It can be looked at through many different lenses and from many different angles, but for the purposes of this video, I'm only going to talk about one aspect: how to justify your decisions through documentation. Now, before I begin, let me just say that there are several things that CSN and our insurance partners recognize that can affect your ability to repair. OEM procedures, in some cases, prevent it. There are more and more one-time parts being manufactured, which also affects this metric. Parts cost. Often the amount of time it would take to repair exceeds the value of replacement. A good example is of Mazda panels like fenders, doors, etc. Plus, some of the new designs have so many complex body lines, the number of hours required to repair makes it a non-starter. Materials that are repairable, like some aluminums and others, are becoming more prevalent, and while they're often repairable, the labor involved in doing so can often make it cheaper to replace. There's so many challenges in this, and insurers are aware of it. They're also aware that in general, shops make more money by repairing than they do by replacing. So that begs the question, if they know this, why do they question our decisions so often? Overwhelmingly, the reason is we have not supplied enough documentation to support. It's important to explain your choices and demonstrate the rationale of your decisions so that it's understood by the insurer, and they can see that you're doing what's best for the vehicle with safety, time, and cost containment in mind. Always remember that if you can't see it in your photos and through your comments, neither can they. So let's take a look at a few examples where the insurer questioned our decision to replace. This Ford F-150 front upper bumper cover looks repairable. What do you see? Maybe it's cracked through. Maybe the time required to repair matches or exceeds the cost to replace. There's no way for the insurer to know without doing some digging, because no explanations or additional photos were supplied. You should know that just because an image desk appraiser approves your estimate doesn't mean that they believed it to be justified. They're human, they get very busy, and in all likelihood they didn't even see this. As a self-managed network, it's on us at CSN to make sure that we're making economical decisions without sacrificing safety, of course, and thoroughly documenting all decisions made. Have a look at this Dodge Journey. The hood on this was replaced. Is that justifiable in these photos? Because they're the best ones that were supplied. The only explanation in the comments is that the front edge was rolled. Now, would you question this if you were paying the bill? I'm not suggesting that replacement wasn't required for certain, but I think we can all agree that the evidence is insufficient. Now let's look at the photos supplied on this 2020 BMW X1. The front bumper cover, worth $900, was replaced. It appears to be repairable. Maybe it was cracked through. Maybe the backside has no access due to plastic welded brackets. Maybe it's too close to a sensor and OEM requires replacement. The answer is unclear because this is all that was supplied. Now let's take a look at a great example of what any insurer would like to see and what the CSN standard is that we're striving for. This is a screenshot from Mitchell Connect of a CSN shop that does an excellent job of noting their photos. There's nothing specific to repair versus replace here. It's simply meant to show you how easy it is to understand when these photos are laid out and noted so nicely. On this claim, there were 100 photos on a $10,000 estimate. And I'm not saying you need to take this many, but we would certainly like to see more than the bare minimum, because it's not uncommon for me to see a dozen to 20 or so photos on an estimate this size. You'll notice here that the shop has gone in and edited some of the pictures. This is a handy tool you can find in Mitchell Connect Estimating. We'll have training available soon on how to use Mitchell Connect and all of its features, but for now, let me show you this. It's very simple and it's quick. So find the job that you're working on in Mitchell Connect. Go to the Attachments section. Find and select the photo that you'd like to work on. I'm going to select this headliner. It's got some staining here that I would like to draw some attention to. Click Edit on the top right-hand corner. And now you're in the editing window. Along the top, you'll find these icons. Anything that you do here can be undone by clicking Undo here, as long as you haven't saved it yet. This first icon rotates 90 degrees to the left. This one rotates 90 degrees to the right. This one here will highlight a certain section of the photo. You can draw attention to the dirt on this headliner here. This one here is a pen with different size tips and different colors that you can also use to draw attention to a particular area. This here can adjust the brightness and the contrast. And lastly, this one here will flip the colors entirely. I encourage you to play around with this and start using it regularly on your insurance claim photos. Anything that you've done before saving can be wiped away by clicking once on this Revert. Revert file, and you're back to the original without having done anything to the picture. If you decide you want to do some edits and then save both the edited photograph and the original, make your changes and select Save As. This will save your edited copy to the attachments while leaving the original intact. And sometimes you don't need to do any editing. We will soon have content available on photography for insurance claims, but for now let me just say that high quality, clear photos with context and with notes can be the easiest and most effective way to justify a repair versus replace decision. Take this photo here. This is a 2015 Jeep Cherokee where the shop is estimated to replace the driver's side quarter panel. Now let's say that this slightly blurry photo is the best and one of the only ones offered by the shop. It's not, but let's just imagine for a moment. Now many of you with a certain level of experience will recognize that the quarter probably does need to be replaced with just this picture. An image desk appraiser is not going to be able to approve this without some hesitation at least. Without additional photos and context, it's simply not 100% clear that replacement is required. It only looks like a difficult repair. So this appraiser may have to kick the estimate back to you, maybe even call you and ask you to do something that we're already obligated to do. Now this is not helpful for your day-to-day operations, and it's certainly not helpful for your relationship with that particular insurer. Just a small amount of care and diligence to produce clear photos with context will allow the appraiser to approve your estimate without thinking twice. Now let me show you what the shop was doing here and why not even the most critical appraiser would give them a hard time over this little bit of blur. This picture is meant to zero in on one thing, and it starts from this distance. And it moves in a little closer, then closer still, and finally this, close-up, showing a heavily distorted inner and outer edge. By standing at an angle and holding the camera steady, the image is crisp, and the additional shadow adds contrast. Also, the shop lights reflected in the panel warp and stretch, bolstering your case. Closing the rear door adds context by showing just how far in that quarter panel actually is. Now, some would say that this level of detail is a little overboard. Many would agree. But CSN's position is that's precisely what we should do. These things take only a few seconds, and that tiny investment of our time pays dividends in improved relationships and in metrics like supplement ratio. Most of us already have a repair-first mindset, but sometimes as humans, we tend to assume that we're doing well or we're doing poorly in any given area without really knowing for sure. So please review your own store's metrics. Are you below the average and need some assistance? Are you above average and can offer support to your fellow members? Please reach out in either case so we can facilitate shop-to-shop engagement, if not help directly. We have a huge, mostly untapped resource in each other, and if we can tap it, we can only excel. Here's a few takeaways that you can think about and maybe implement at your location that may help. Have a coworker review your photos and ask if they can see what you're trying to show. Ask for help when taking pictures to hold a reflective board, point out an area of damage, or maybe hold a light. Use the tools available to you for photo editing in Mitchell Connect, or use Microsoft Paint if you're using Autotext. Always use proper lighting and context during your photography, and whenever feasible, have the vehicle clean and dry during the estimate. Remember to load OEM data to Mitchell Connect or to Autotext when needed. Provide documentation to state your case before it's asked for. Thanks for watching. Look for Repair versus Replace Part 2, where we'll discuss all the different things that go into making a repair versus replace decision and why it's so important.